In the late 17th century, the nature of warfare changes, consuming state resources. France dominates Europe. Louis XIV, who confessed he'd loved war too much, had wanted to marry Mazarin's niece, but for political reasons married the daughter of Philip IV. Philip's successor was Charles II, who wasn't expected to live long, but reigned for 35 years, then left Spain without a direct heir. Louis installed his grandson as Philip V of Spain, then occupied Flanders and allied with and occupied Mantua. Emperor Leopold reacted immediately, dispatching Eugene to Italy, where he defeated the French at the Battle of Carpi and the Battle of Chiari. In September, with commercial interests threatened, Parliament finally acquiesced to William III's demand for another Grand Alliance. 1702 begins with another victory for Eugene, who is poorly supplied and outnumbered but still winning battles. In March, William dies. England declare war in May, and Louis of Baden crosses the Rhine to threaten Alsace, but is driven back. Commanding an army of 50,000 English and Dutch, John Churchill captures forts on the Rhine and the Meuse and becomes Duke of Marlborough. In September, Bavaria joined the war on the French side. The Allied attack on Cadiz fails, but an attack on the treasure fleet in Vigo Bay bags 2,000 kilograms of silver. In January 1703, undersupplied with his army rotting away, Eugene returns to Vienna. In May, Marlborough captures Bonn, Portugal joined the Grand Alliance, and Savoy changed sides. Two things happen for Leopold: Austria's economy crashes and the Hungarians rebel. In 1704, the Allies' imperative is to remove Bavaria from the war and make it a tax resource for Leopold. The Allies concentrate their army on the Danube. At Schellenberg, Marlborough twice stormed the defences. Louis of Baden noticed a flank had been weakened and immediately marched his Imperial Guard to attack it. The defenders fell back, Louis took the hill, and Marlborough unleashed 35 squadrons of dragoons to cut down the fleeing French and Bavarians. The three commanders agree that Louis of Baden will besiege Ingolstadt to secure a third river crossing, while Marlborough and Eugene seek to bring the French to battle. Victory at Blenheim knocks Bavaria out of the war. The French commander Tallard was amazed to see the Allies advance on his strong defensive position. At 8 a.m. the French artillery opened fire. Baden heard the guns in Ingolstadt. The Prince and Duke are engaged today to the westward. Heaven bless them. Prince Eugene mounted a strong diversionary assault on the flank against Marzin and Maximilian. General Cutts mounted two unsuccessful assaults on Blenheim. The key moment occurs when Clerambault, without informing Tallard, orders the French reserve into Blenheim. The men were so crowded in upon one another they couldn't even fire. Marlborough then launched the main attack across the Nebel River, sweeping Tallard's forces into the Danube River. In February 1704, Archduke Charles, son of Leopold and the Allies' candidate, arrives in Lisbon. Philip V and the Duke of Berwick advance down the Tagus to take Lisbon, but the heat and bad supplies force them back to Madrid in July. In August, two enormous fleets clashed in the only major naval battle of the war, the Battle of Malaga. The result was inconclusive, but allowed the Allies to secure Gibraltar. 1705, a French-sponsored Hungarian uprising depletes Austrian forces in Italy, allowing 150,000 French to capture all Savoy and North Piedmont. Eugene was stopped by his cousin Marshal Vendôme at Cassano. A French naval squadron is destroyed at Marbella, and in October the Allies capture Barcelona. 1706 is a disaster for France. Marlborough's victory at Ramillies forces France out of the Spanish Netherlands. Marlborough left The Hague with a heavy heart, expecting a defensive stalemate, but Louis had goaded Villeroy into action. The two armies stumbled across one another at Ramillies. The terrain forced Villeroy to overextend his line, whereas Marlborough could employ a compact, more manoeuvrable formation. A ferocious assault on Tavieres forced Villeroy to reinforce his flank. A major advance across the Geat pulled in more reserves. Leaving behind their regimental colours, reinforcements moved to support Marlborough's assault on the French centre. The French fallback becomes flight, and Marlborough captures the supply train and artillery. At Turin, Eugene inflicts a heavy defeat on the French. The following year, Emperor Joseph instructs Eugene to sign the Convention of Milan with France, allowing 23,000 French free passage from Italy to the fury of the Allies. In May, Joseph dispatched a 10,000-man army to take Naples, completing the conquest of the peninsula, and subjecting Italy to a century and a half of Habsburg hegemony. The war is in its closing stages. What did the protagonists want? Habsburgs. Indecisive Leopold acts with unaccustomed alacrity when France move into Mantua, indicating the importance of Italy to Habsburg security. The Dutch. French occupation of Flanders and the barrier forts is a casus belli for the United Provinces. England. They enter the war after Louis and Philip conclude the Franco-Spanish Treaty, threatening to exclude Anglo-Dutch commerce from Spanish America. France. Louis XIV loves war and glory, but settles for consolidating his borders. Bavaria. By the First Partition Treaty, his son would have inherited Spain, but died in 1699. Max Emanuel is driven by ambition and resents the elevation of Frederick to king in Prussia, and is dismayed to see Victor Amadeus become king of Sicily. The Spanish. Believing the Habsburgs responsible for their decline, they look for a Bourbon revival, which is partly successful. The French supply everything but are resented, with the exception of Amelot. When Maria Louisa dies, Philip marries Elizabeth Farnese, who ousts the French faction and ushers in the Italians, then promotes a series of Italian wars to obtain a province for her son Don Carlos. In the 45-year reign of Philip V, there were only 8 years of peace. The reform Spain was seeking came with Charles III. He expelled the Jesuits and ushered in the long overdue Enlightenment.